Our next reader is Brandon Schrand, the author of The Enders Hotel and works cited in Alphabetical Odyssey of Mayhem and Misbehavior. I do want to say that last semester I picked that book up and started reading it, and I was really awestruck by the incredible writing, beautiful language. I just felt like I was completely in the hands of someone who knew what they were doing, and I thought, gosh, there's no end to the talent on this university writing program faculty. His work has been anthologized numerous times in the Best American Essays and Anthology. He presently is working on a book about Psychiana, a mail-order religion that was founded in Moscow during the Great Depression. Please welcome real talent, Brandon Schrand.
Thank you, Max, for that introduction. That wasn't the introduction I supplied him with. Jennifer was like, send us a very, very short bio. So today I was like, he has chickens. And I looked at it for a while, and I'm like, maybe a little bit more. So, thank you, Max. I'd like to thank Jennifer Hawk, who has been tireless in her work for the festival, putting this together. There she is. She's an absolute dynamo. It's amazing. And so thank you so much, Jennifer. As somebody who knows how much work goes into these sort of events, I'm very appreciative of that. Thanks to Book People for hosting this event. Thanks to you for coming out and supporting the MFA program, the Hemingway Festival. Feast tickets are for sale. That's sort of the thrust behind this event tonight, and of course to see some of the sneak peeks of the faculty and writers of our program. I'm going to be reading from my book in progress titled The Man Who Sold God, The Cult of Psychiana, The Great Depression, and the Rise of a Self-Help America. And this comes from chapter 11. It's titled A Letter from Egypt. From a second-story office window at Peel and Company Limited, Jeffrey Peel Burley had a commanding view of the Mediterranean Sea. It was the end of August 1930 in Egypt, and the hot weather had sent, as it always did, droves of beachgoers to the shoreline where skiffs and schooners floated in the bay. Sandstorms were a problem. Within minutes, a miasmic ochre-hued color of sand could swallow the city and shut down commerce as well as shipping and choke the streets of life. But the air was still that day, the bay a palette of azure calm. Watery sunlight flitted through the lemon trees while young men played backgammon outside the cafes where they sipped from ice-cold cocktails of fruit and milk, sugarcane, and hibiscus. Burley, 22, was training to take over his family's Egyptian cotton empire. That afternoon, he had happened upon an advertisement in the American periodically Psychology magazine. The ad read, "I talked with God. Yes, I did, actually and literally." The ad further promised that anyone could talk to God actually and literally if only they signed up for a set of 20 lessons for $20. The advertisement invited people to complete an attached order blank and send it along with their payment to Dr. Frank B. Robinson, Moscow, Idaho, USA. Something in that ad struck Burley with an unexpected force. The wealthy cotton exporter of British blood was no rube. He had attended the exclusive Uppingham School in Rutland, England, where he excelled at music and cricket. He was then educated at Cambridge and was groomed to take over the family business. He was a shrewd merchant and would later serve as a commander and point man for the top-secret Operation Tracer, a six-man underground British espionage installment on the Rock of Gibraltar during World War II. But at the time, the young man saw something in Robinson's self-help religion that spoke to him. The more he pondered the curious ad and paced his office overlooking the sea, the more he felt compelled to write to Dr. Robinson. And so on that very afternoon, while his clerks thundered away on their typewriters outside of his office, Burley sat down at his desk and wrote a brief note expressing his interest in Psychiana. He then folded the note, the order blank, and a check for $20 US and put it into an envelope and set it in his outbox. In 2 weeks, Burley received a thick brown envelope in the mail. It was the first of his 20 lessons, and he was leveled by Robinson's insights into the God power. A few months later, on Friday, October 24th, 1930, Burley wrote again to Robinson, quote, "Dear Dr. Robinson, I received lesson 4 yesterday and stayed up till 1 o'clock this morning reading it through. No words of mine can adequately express the glorious thrill it gave me. The thought of being able to actually speak to the living God, the mighty life spirit, fairly took my breath away, as you said it would. I was keyed up to a high pitch, 100% wide awake and expectant when I came to that passage. It's impossible in a letter to show you my true appreciation of your wonderful work, as I cannot possibly thank you sufficiently. Very sincerely yours, Jeffrey Burley." Back in Moscow, it was all Robinson could do to keep up with the requests for lessons. Nearly all the money he received from students was put back into Psychiana, and in advertising particularly. Soon, however, the office above the grocery store was too small and the staff too few, the machines overworked. So he moved his operation across Main Street into the store, a 24-foot storefront office. He hired a business manager, 2 more secretaries, and purchased another multigraph machine. Robinson decided to write Burley and, in an audacious move, asked for $40,000. Incredibly, Burley agreed to send the money in 2 installments of $20,000 each. In 1930, the sum of $20,000 was roughly equivalent to $250,000 today. Frank's wife, Pearl, could hardly believe it. After so many years of boom and bust, of Robinson trying his hand at many vocations and failing, it looked as though Psychiana was somehow divinely inspired. Across America, however, there began to emerge a different, more troubling story. While Robinson motored his way through the rolling hills of the Idaho-Washington Palouse to Spokane, where he would fetch his cashier's check from Burley, dire signs of economic downturn made the front pages of papers nationwide. Not long after the gaunt Charles Lindbergh made his cross-country flight, capital investments tanked, and construction, one of the key economic indicators of the day, plummeted by 26% in 1930. As people held fast to their pennies, demand for material goods waned, and as a correlative result, prices started to slide in 1930 and then topple in the ensuing years. These economic red flags put industry leaders in a precarious place because the one thing that didn't fall was the wage scale. The grim chatter in Washington and on Wall Street entailed mandatory wage cuts. Worse still was the passage of the Republican-backed Hawley-Smoot tariff, which President Hoover had signed into law in June of 1930. It was the highest tariff in U.S. history, and as a partial result, foreign trade partners began retaliating against the United States by imposing new tariffs on U.S. exports. Opponents like Henry Ford called this policy economic stupidity. Meanwhile, the temperature soared on the Great Plains. Drought choked hardpan America and became a scourge upon the land. Sandstorms swept the earth like phantoms abducting hope. Gaunt figures regarded their neighbors like alien forms. Abandoned farmsteads stood skeletal in the whirls of sand. Men stood in barns tasting the zing of gunmetal before pulling the trigger. And yet, through all of it, Psychiana's popularity soared. Robinson hired more people, bought more printing equipment, and in 1930 published his first book, The God Nobody Knows. His advertising campaign was strategic, calculated, and systematic. He targeted 4 distinct sets of newspapers: American Weekly, Scripps Howard, Parade, and shopping newspapers. He also advertised heavily in annual publications such as Farmer's Almanac, World Astrology, and Your Prophecy. And last, he advertised heavily in the pulp magazines such as Western Aces, Thrilling Detective, Phantom Detective, Thrilling Adventures, Spicy Mysteries, and Amazing Detective. The very pulp magazines in which a young and up-and-coming ambitious science fiction writer named L. Ron Hubbard was first publishing his short stories. Before the year was over, Frank Robinson had suddenly started calling himself a psychologist. Thank you very much.